Hi guys, welcome back to Leah's Lifestyle. Let's get into this book reading. You know, we have been reading The Highly Sensitive Person, and we left off at page 90. We are on chapter 5, Social Relationships, the Slide into Shy. Alright, don't forget that we were doing notes. It looks like pages 88 and 89 might have something on them that I never went back to look at, which is why you write it down. Okay, so yeah, it was the last one. It was working with what you have learned, reframing your childhood. Think about your responses to the event and how you choose one event and go through the step for reframing introduced in chapter 1. Think about your response to the event and how you have always viewed it. Consider your response in the light of what you know now and how your body automatically operates. Think if there's anything that needs to be done about it now. Okay. Well, I don't think that's something I could write down. I think that's something I have to do, like, with all my things. So I'm just gonna say, reframing childhood. And I've been slowly doing that, honestly. So I think we are ready to start reading then. We're gonna start on page 90, chapter 5. We're gonna read for about an hour. Let's see where chapter 6 is at. Chapter 6 is 116. So, about 26 pages. Let's get started. I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me today, guys. A little bit of water before we start. Gotta stay hydrated. Okay. Turn down the music a little. We need ambiance, but you know, not too loud of an ambiance. You're too shy. Did you hear that often? You will think about it differently after reading this chapter, which discusses where shyness usually happens most. In your non-intimate social relationships. The close ones are discussed in chapter 7. Many of you are gifted socially. That's a fact. But since there is no point in fixing something that's not broken, I'll focus here on a problem that typically needs fixing. What others call shyness. Social avoidance, social phobia, but quotes around those. But we will approach it and a few other common issues for HSPs in a very different way. Again, by focusing on problems, I don't mean to imply that HSPs necessarily have a difficult social life, but when the president of the United States and the Queen of England must sometimes worry about what others are thinking about them, so you probably worry about that too. Sometimes. And worry makes us over-aroused, our special Achilles heel. Also, we often are told, don't worry, no one is judging you. But being sensitive, you may be noticing that people really are watching and judging. People usually do. The non-sensitive are often happily oblivious of it. So your task in life is much harder. To know about those glances, those silent judgments, and still not let them affect you too much. It's not easy. If you have always considered yourself shy, most people confuse sensitivity with shyness. That is why you heard, "You're too shy." People say a certain dog, cat, or horse was born shy, when it really has a sensitive nervous system. Unless it has been abused, then it would be more accurate to say it's afraid. Shyness is the fear others are not going to like or approve of us. That makes it a response to a situation. It is a certain state, not always present trait. Shyness, even chronic shyness, is not inherited. Sensitivity is. And while chronic shyness does develop more in HSPs, it needn't. I have met many HSPs who are almost never shy. If you often feel shy, there's a good explanation for how you or anyone else probably got that way. Non-HSPs included, sometimes in your past you entered a social situation, usually overstimulating to begin with, and felt that you failed. Others said you did something wrong or did not seem to like you, or you failed to meet your own standards in the situation. Maybe you were already over-aroused, having used your excellent imagination to envision all that might go wrong. Usually, the failure is not enough to make anyone chronically shy. Although it can happen, usually it happens that the next time you were in the same situation, you were more aroused because you feared a repeat of the previous time. And being more aroused made failure more likely. By the third time, you were being very brave, but you were also impossibly aroused. You couldn't think of anything to say, you acted inferior and were treated that way, and so forth. You can see how this pattern could repeat and repeat into a downward spiral. Into a downward spiral. I said drawn. Into a downward spiral. It can also spread to other situations that are even a little similar, like all situations with people present. HSPs being more easily aroused are more likely to enter the spiral, but you were not born shy, just sensitive. I feel those spirals though. Yeah. I don't call them my shyness spirals though. They're my depression spirals. You know? It's a little different. Ridding shyness from your self-concept. There are 3 problems with accepting the label shy. First, it is totally inaccurate. It misses the real you, your sensitivity to subtlety, Is that even a word? Sensitivity to subtlety. Woo! There we go. Your sensitivity to subtly. I can say subtly. English is stupid. Your sensitivity to subtly. I hate that word now. And your difficulty with over-arousal. Remember, over-arousal is not always due to fear. Thinking as fear can make you feel shy when you are not. As well, we see this confidence of your trait with a state of mind called shyness is natural, given that 75% of the population, at least in the United States, are very socially outgoing. When they see that you look over-aroused, they do not realize that it could be due to too much stimulation. That is not their experience. They think you must be afraid of being rejected. You're shy. You fear rejection. Why else would you not be socializing? Sometimes you are afraid of rejection. Why not? Your style is not the cultural ideal, after all. But as an HSP, sometimes you just don't want the extra arousal. When others are treating you as if you're shy and afraid, it can be hard to realize that you're simply chosen to be alone, at least at first. You're the one rejecting. You are not being rejected. Besides, not understanding because they were born needing more arousal than you to be comfortable, non-HSPs, also can project their own fear of rejection onto you. That is, attributing to you something they do not want to admit to themselves. If you are spending less time in crowds or meeting strangers when you do have to be in such a situation, you are almost bound to be less skilled. It is not your specialty, but again, to assume you are shy or afraid is inaccurate. When people set out to help you, they are usually starting from the wrong premise. For example, they think you lack confidence and reassure you that you are likable. In fact, however, this is telling you there is something the matter with you, low self-esteem. Not knowing your underlying trait, they give you the wrong reason for your being less sociable and cannot give you the many real reasons you should feel fine about yourself. Calling yourself shy is negative. Unfortunately, the term shy has some very negative connotations. It does not have to. Shy can also be equated with words such as discreet, self-controlled, thoughtful, and sensitive. But studies have shown that most people on first meetings, those I would call HSPs, consider them shy and equated that with anxious, awkward, fearful, inhibited, and timid. Even mental health professionals have rated them more often than not this way, and also as lower on intellectual competence, achievements, and mental health, which, in fact, bear no association with shyness. Only people who know the shy people well, such as their spouses, choose the positive terms. Another study found that the tests used by psychologists to measure shyness are replete with the same negative terms. Maybe that would be alright if the tests were of a state of mind, but they're often used to identify shy people, who then bear a negative label. Beware of the hidden prejudice behind the word shy. I don't think I'm ever going to use that word again like that. Like, I will never use shy in a negative term now. Calling yourself shy is self-fulfilling. A rather charming psychological experiment involving shyness, done at Stanford University by Susan Brodt and Philip Zimbardo, demonstrated why you need to know you are not shy, but just an HSP who can become over-aroused. Brodt and Zimbardo found women students who say they were extremely shy, especially with men, and others who were not shy, to serve as a comparison group. In the study, which supposedly concerned the effects of loud noises, each woman spent time with a young man. The man, who was unaware of whether or not the woman was shy, had been instructed to converse with each woman in the same style. The interesting twist was that some of the shy women were fooled into thinking that their overarousal, their pounding heart, and racing pulse was due to loud noise. The result was that the shy women who believed their overarousal had been caused by a loud noise talked just as much as the non-shy women. They even took charge, controlling the topic of conversation just as much as the non-shy women did. The other group of shy women who had nothing else on which to blame their arousal talked much less and allowed the man to control the conversation much more. After the experiment, the young man was asked to guess which women were shy. He could not distinguish non-shy women from the shy women who had been led to believe their arousal was due to the noise. These shy women became less shy by assuming that there was no social reason for their over-arousal. They also said that they did not feel shy and truly enjoyed the experience. Indeed, when asked if they would prefer to be alone next time if they were again a participant of a noise bombardment experiment, 2/3 said they would prefer not to be, compared to only 14% of the other shy women and 25% of the non-shy. Apparently, these shy women had an especially fine time just because they thought their over-arousal was caused by something besides shyness. Woo! Taking that sugar pill. Remember this experiment the next time you feel over-aroused in a social situation. Your heart may be pounding for any number of reasons, having nothing to do with the people you are with. There may be too much noise, or you may be worrying about something else you are only half aware of that has nothing to do with the person you are with. So go ahead, ignore the other causes, if you can, and have a good time. I've given you 3 strong reasons not to call yourself shy anymore. It is inaccurate, negative, and self-fulfilling. And do not let others label you with it either. Let's say it is your civic duty to eradicate the social prejudice. Not only is it unfair, but as discussed in Chapter 1, it is dangerous because it helps to silence the thoughtful voices of HSPs by reducing their self-confidence. Wow. I think I've been shy before. I've definitely had shy moments, but I don't think I've ever seen myself as a shy child. I've always been a pretty outgoing person, and I've always enjoyed communicating with people. I've just struggled with long-term commitments, and it's not even like on me, like it's not like it is on me, right? But it's not like on me in the sense that like I'm personally struggling with the long-term commitments. I'm struggling to figure out how people maintain long-term commitments, because like I want them, I do what I think is right, but I've lost multiple relationships now. I have a very small group of friends now, which isn't bad. I'm not complaining about it. I used to be a lot more depressed and negative about that, but this book's helping. But just in general, my mind's been trying to adjust over so I can appreciate the friends I do have more and save those friendships and not push them away based off my negativity of not being able to hold on to friendships from elementary, middle school, high school, college. Every job I've ever worked at, no one talks to me from. And like I hear people saying like, I made the bestest friends from my jobs. I'm like, yeah, well, not me apparently. So I think it's important to figure out not only your self-confidence, but to understand how relationships kind of function. Okay. Especially if you're struggling with them. How to think about your social discomfort. Social discomfort, the term I prefer to shy, is almost always due to over-arousal, which makes you act, speak, or appear not very socially skilled, or it is the dread that you will become over-aroused. You dread doing something awkward, not being able to think of what to say, but the dread itself is usually enough now to create the over-arousal once in the situation. Remember, discomfort is temporary, and it gives you choices. Suppose you are uncomfortably cold. You can tolerate it. You can find a more congenial environment. You can create some heat, build a fire, turn up the thermostat, or ask those in charge to do it. You can put on a coat. The one thing you should not do is blame yourself for being inherently more susceptible to a cold environment. The same is true for temporary social discomfort. Due to over-arousal, you can put up with it, leave the situation, change the social atmosphere, or ask others to, or do something else to make you more comfortable. Like put on your persona. Put on your persona. I'll discuss that later. In all cases, you are consensually ridding yourself of the discomfort. So forget the idea that you are inherently uncomfortable in social situations. 5 ways to handle over-arousal in social situations. 1. Remember that over-arousal is not necessarily fear. 2. Find other HSPs to talk to, one-on-one. 3. Use your arousal-reducing skills. 4. Develop a good persona and consciously use it. Explain your trait to others. Never underestimate the power of simply acknowledging to yourself that you are over-aroused, possibly by something having nothing to do with the people you are with. If you are judged for that, it is not the real you, but the one temporarily flustered by over-arousal. If and when they know the claim, if and when they know the claim you, if and when they know the claim you. Is that a fucking sentence? That's not a sentence. That's gotta be a typing error. I'm gonna reread this. Hold on. Never underestimate the power of simply acknowledging to yourself that you are over-aroused, possibly by something having nothing to do with the people you are with. If you are judged for that, it is not the real you, but the one temporarily flustered by over-arousal. If and when they know the calm you. Holy shit, this is what happens with dyslexia. Like, literally, I'm like, that says like, it looks wrong. But then I look at it again after rereading the sentence, and the letters switch back, and I'm like, weird, curious, strange, okay. I feel like a cuckoo clock right now. All right. Where was I at? If and when they know the calm you, the you who is subtly aware, they will be favorably impressed. You know that is true because you have close friends who admire you. When I went back to graduate school at midlife, on the very first day, in the first hour, in the breakfast room, I dropped a full glass of milk all over myself and the floor and several others in the vicinity. No one had bumped me. I just hit it against something. It happened in full view of all of my future fellow students and faculty, the people I most wanted to impress. The pure shock added to my already almost unbearable arousal. But thanks only to the research I was doing on HSPs like you and me, I knew all about why I had done it. My body's inability to even carry milk was predictable. The day was difficult, but I did not let the spilled milk add to my social discomfort. As the day went by, I found other HSPs, and that helped a great deal. We were all spilling milk, so to speak. I'm sorry, when you read a sentence, sometimes my brain's like, what the fuck? Where are you going with this? Like, we were all spilling milk. I was like, wait, did you convince, is where this is going, you convinced all these other people you met to spill milk everywhere so you didn't have to feel the... Okay, anyways. So to speak. In the average social situation, there ought to be about 20% who are HSPs and another 30% who feel moderately sensitive. Studies and shyness find that an ominous questionnaire, 40% call themselves shy. In a room full of people, the odds are that there is at least one person with your trait or who is feeling social discomfort. Catch their eyes after you stumble, literally or metaphorically, and notice the look of deep sympathy. You have an instant friend. Meanwhile, you use all the points suggested in Chapter 3 to reduce your arousal. Take breaks. Go for a walk. Breathe deeply. Move in some way. Consider your options. Maybe it's time to go. Maybe there's a better place to position yourself, by an open window, an aisle, or in the door. Think in terms of containers. Who or what quite familiar presence could hold you right now? There were times on the first day of graduate school when I feared that the faculty would think something was seriously wrong with me, with the average non-HSP being this over-aroused cold could only mean serious conflicts and instability. So I used all my tricks: walking, meditation, driving off campus at lunchtime, calling home for some comfort, and it worked well enough. We often think our over-arousal is more noticeable to others than it really is. You know that much of social life is one persona meeting another, with neither person looking too far beneath the surface. By behaving in a predictable way, talking the way others do, even when you don't feel like it. No one will hassle you or draw the wrong conclusion that you're arrogant, aloof, plotting, or so forth. For example, research finds that shy students tend to see themselves as doing their best so socially, but their roommates tend to think they're just not trying enough. That may be the fault of the culture for not understanding HSPs. But until we change it, you may want to make your life a little easier by acting a little more like everyone else does. Put on your persona. The term comes from the Greek word for mask. Behind the mask, you can be whoever you want. On the other hand, sometimes the best tactic is to explain your over-arousal. I often do this when speaking or teaching in front of a group of strangers. I tell them that I know I sound a little strained, but in a few minutes, I'll be fine. In a group, explaining your trait may lead to a more intimate conversation about everyone's social discomfort. Make it possible for you to go off alone without feeling guilty, or free you to make a break without being left out when you return. Perhaps there is someone who could lessen the stimulation you're experiencing and add just the lighting or Perhaps there is someone who could lessen the stimulation you're experiencing. It has a line, add, line, just the lighting or volume, or let you pass when introductions are made. Once you mention being highly sensitive, you'll arouse one of two stereotypes, depending on your choice of words. One stereotype, frankly, is of a passive victim, someone weak and troubled. The other is of a gifted, deep, powerful presence in the room. It takes practice bringing up the positive stereotype, though, through the words you choose to explain your needs. We'll work on that in chapter 6. I think naturally I give off a gifted, deep, powerful presence, but I think inside I've been working on my passive victim. You know, isn't that funny? Because I feel like people who probably come off as a passive victim are probably more in their gifted, deep, powerful presence. So that's very interesting. What? Okay. When I have to be with a group of people for a whole day or weekend, I often explain that I need plenty of time alone. Often others do too. But even if I'm the only one going to my room early and taking long walks alone, I've learned not to generate sympathy or pity, but to leave behind an air of mystery. Members of the Royal Advisor class must consider these matters. Be a little cagey about your HSP PR. That's so funny. I'm actually really enjoying this book. The more I read it, the more I like it. I kind of wish I would have been feeling better yesterday so we could have read this yesterday and we could be starting chapter 6, but hey, it is what it is, you know? People, arousal, and introversion. Thus far, we have attacked the problem by getting rid of the label shy and understanding what is going on as familiar over-arousal. It is equally important that you appreciate that there's more than one right way to be social. Your way of being social arises from a basic fact. For most of us, the majority of the arousing stimulus in the external world is created by other people, whether at home, at work, or in public. We're all social beings who enjoy and must depend on others. But many HSPs avoid people who come in their overstimulating packages, the strangers, the big parties, the crowds. For most HSPs, this is a smart strategy. In a highly stimulating, demanding world, everyone has to establish priorities. Of course, no one can be an expert at dealing with the situations they choose to avoid, but most of you can manage or learn to. Yay, we're learning! Just managing is an acceptable, smart way to save your energy for whatever else matters to you. It's also true that some HSPs avoid strangers. parties, and other group situations because of having been rejected by peers and groups in the past. Because they didn't fit our culture ideal of being outgoing, they've been judged harshly and avoid people they cannot be sure of. That seems reasonable, although sad, and is nothing to be ashamed of. In all, 70% of HSPs tend to be socially introverted. That does not mean you dislike people, it means you prefer to have a few close relationships rather than a large circle of friends and don't usually enjoy large parties or crowds. But even the most introverted person is sometimes an extroverted and enjoys a stranger or a crowd. Even the most extroverted is sometimes an introverted. Introverts are still social beings. In fact, their well-being is more affected by their social relationships than is the well-being of extroverts. Introverts just go for quality, not quantity. If you're not enjoying a sense of emotional well-being, however, a close relationship with someone does not always solve the problem. Many people, in fact, cannot have a good, close relationship until they developed a greater sense of well-being through some healing work and psychotherapy in the broadest sense, as described in Chapter 8. You know what's so insane about reading this right now? I feel like I needed this book 3 years ago. I feel like I'm just reading everything I went through. I feel like I'm reading everything. Like, this is just confirming all the things I've been thinking and feeling and wondering. This is confirming and like she's like quoting. I'm gonna have to read this book again because I'm gonna have to write down all the people and research and all those things. I'm gonna need to go look those people up, figure it out. I want to know more. I need to know more. But I think the crazy part about this part right here, about if you're not enjoying a sense of emotional well-being, however, a close relationship with someone does not always solve the problem. You know what is insane is maybe a little TMI, but I need to put this in perspective for people. I had a relationship, a 6-year relationship. 4 years into it, my partner, we were monogamous, asked to open the relationship. I did not want to be with other men, and he only wanted to be with women. So it worked out for us at the time. And I met somebody that we started mutually dating together. In that 2 years, our relationship fast. So like it ended and I'm going through that and I'm still with the person that we dated together, but now it's just me and her. And I could see all these really nice things she was doing, stuff that he never did for me. Like her and I connected so much better than him and I did. We had a lot more in common. We really understood each other. The problem is both of us were still dealing with a lot of our trauma and toxicity at the time. And so I think we had other outlets than each other to push those toxic things onto. And so we didn't do it to each other until that relationship ended and I wasn't feeling fulfilled anymore because I had lost something I needed within that first relationship, which was a container to hold my anxiety and my fear and not wanting to be alone and like a whole bunch of other things. That's what he held for me within that relationship, whether he knew it or not. And when I ended that relationship because of what happened, I lost that. And when I needed her to pick that up, she was unable to, and in fact was needing me to be that container. But I wasn't able to. I needed to work through a lot of stuff. And so I couldn't do the things I wanted to do in that relationship when I wanted to do them because I wasn't okay, you know? And so I left that relationship trying to not only save her feelings and her emotions and like anything negative I would do to her, but also to save me from her doing anything negative to me because I didn't want her to ruin our relationship either. But we did that anyways, so that's how that works. It's actually quite funny because we still have a phone plan together and we're coming to the end of it. We did one of those things where you buy the watch and the phone, you get the watch for free, whatever, you do their 2-year plan, anyways. So we're finally coming to the end of it tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but next month. And it's insane. It's insane. She messaged me to tell me, right? And we don't talk anymore. And I just confirmed with her. I realized I hadn't sent that, like, this month's like phone payments. I was like, ugh, fucking being shit about that, but let me send that. So I Venmo her money. Then I message her and I say, okay, I'll pay next month on the 1st, to let her know, like, I fucked up. Clearly, I'm not, right? I'll pay months on the 1st. Don't worry. I'll just give you the money on the 1st so I don't have to try and think about it. I'm going to be in Japan anyway, so I really need to make sure that I'm not, because I'm going to be busy. I'm not going to remember that. And then I was like, if there's anything else to be paid, because, you know, sometimes they do that. They're like, oh, you do it, and then there's only $80 at the end to keep your phone. Right? I said at the end of the month, I'll pay you whatever was, like, remaining that we needed to pay out. Like, right? And she got upset with me. She got so angry with me. And I was like, girl, I was just confirming for you. I was letting you know that I was doing what you wanted. Like, why are you being all mean to me right now? And she's like, oh, I didn't check my Venmo, and the way that it was, I thought, and I was like, so why didn't you just ask? Hey, it kind of sounds like you didn't pay this month. Can you do that first? Or are you saying you're right? And then I've been like, oh no, sorry. I thought, like, we understood that, like, this month was good. Like, I sent the Venmo. Clearly you didn't get the notification. But, like, you could just have been nice and said, I don't understand this. It sounds like you're not going to pay me all the money I need, and I needed you to pay this 133 on like, this date, which has been many days after, right? And I would have been like, yeah, I clearly saw that. I forgot. I didn't mean to. I thought I had sent it. Da-da-da-da. My life's, and I just like, sorry, B. But she hates me now. So, it was just interesting because I feel like that exact sentence was just, they got everything I've been going through. And it was only after I ended that relationship because we weren't, like, you know, meeting each other's needs and figuring things out and communicating well, that I had met another partner and had been working through a lot of my trauma and stuff. And so I was behaving quite differently with him. I'm still with him. I've been behaving quite differently with him because I'm trying to be a better, less toxic human being, right? Like, I know that, like, my toxicnism could come from trauma and maybe even being an HSP and feeling very overwhelmed and not knowing how to handle that, right? So, and clearly I'm doing the work. Clearly I'm trying. I mean, fuck, I'm writing shit down. I'm fucking streaming the shit and posting it on YouTube so other people can read it and communicate and share their shit in comments with me. Not that any of you guys are doing that, but, like, you know, it's out there just in case. Like, so I feel like I'm doing what I need to do. I don't know what she's doing, but I wish her luck. Anywho, let's get back to the book. Real quick, let me just check on what you guys say. And thanks for the follow. Nolan James, good evening, madame. I'm doing well. We are reading The Highly Sensitive Person. Hello from Earth. Yeah. You from Earth? I'm glad. I think I might be from Saturn or Neptune. Yeah, I'm still trying to decide. Anywho, let's get back into this reading. Let's just 40. Where are we at? Okay, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna read this last section here, the extroverted HSP, which probably is more me. And that's gonna end on page 98, which means we'll start tomorrow on page 99. So let's finish this and then we'll wrap it up. The extroverted HSP. I want to emphasize that being an HSP is not the same as being socially introverted. In my studies, I've found that 30% of us are socially extroverted. As an extrovert, you have large circles of friends and tend to enjoy groups and strangers. Perhaps you were raised in a big, sociable, loving family or safe neighborhood and learned to see people as sources of safety rather than reasons to be on guard. You still find other sources of arousal difficult. However, like a long work day or being in the city too much, when over-aroused you avoid socializing. Yeah. Extroverted non-HSPs actually relax better with people around, while most of our attention here is on the habitually introverted. Extroverts will probably find it useful too. I think that's the hard thing. Is I feel like, I've heard this thing ambivert, and I feel like that's closer. I think my persona is an extrovert, but who I am is an introvert. But I've been my persona for like 30 years straight. So it's like, it's hard for me to perceive myself as an introvert, even though within this last 2 years, I've extremely reverted into introversion and sitting in my own place and being alone and needing time alone to be able to be okay. And being around people actually like does overstimulate me. And like if I'm having an intense emotional conversation, or someone brings up an intense emotional conversation and they're not being kind, or they're being really emotional, or they say something to like hurt my feelings, oh, I snap. Oh, it breaks. It's like fucking gloves off, cuffs off, boxing, like I'm up, man, bloody knucks, like ain't no tape, ain't nothing. I'm about to rip you apart and you're gonna hate me for it. But you attacked first, so you really should have been prepared. Don't poke the bear unless you're ready to die. Like, I feel like that's the sentence. You can't like see some, like, I think that's the thing though, reading that, how they said like non-HSP people don't see it the same way, where they're like, oh, maybe they see you not like that, like, as like they see you as like a damsel, right, or like weak or something, and so they're not expecting me to fight back, right? But I think that's a silly thing. I think no matter who the person is, whether you think they're shy or they're weak or whatever, why would you attack someone and then not be prepared for them to fucking rip your head off? Yeah. Anyways, page 99 tomorrow. I hope you don't mind, but why aren't you okay? You seem energetic, friendly, feel. Well, if you stick around, I'm going to end this stream and we'll start back up and I'll chat with you in a second. But this stream is actually for my YouTube, so I'm going to say thank you for following. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below. What is an experience you guys had that relates to this book so far? Something that you've heard, like kind of like how I've shared. Like, is there something that you feel like you're like, that hits there? Tell me if you read this book. Have you read it yet? If not, I hope you guys enjoy it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.